You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Of course, in our first segment, and which has taken most of the time because that was deliberately for that purpose, was to ensure that we are helping the discussion that is critical to saving our environment, our forest, and our water bodies. And when I got to know sometime a couple of years ago that actually when there is a change in power, you know, party people, chairmen and others actually go to places, then seize and take concessions by themselves and start working. I was like, really? How can this happen in the constitutional democratic Ghana? All right, a couple of messages here. Solomon also, that, you know, campaigner who asked Osafuma for that question that brought out Aisha Huang's matter, is sending us a message from Denver in Colorado, USA. He says the beautiful ones are not yet born is not the answer to the question something asked you, Kwenka.
Absolutely.
How,
that net is a
how
bad net.
do the keys for the missing excavators get to, you know, get away and get the people to take the seized equipment away? That is very critical. But for collusion, this will not be happening. Samuel Brian Boabing, sending from Awoshi, but he is a presidential appointee. He says that President Akufo-Addo is still committed to the fight against illegal mining, and every appointee who is not committed shouldn't impede the process. The president should, with immediate effect, dissolve Operation Vanguard. Professor Frimpong Boateng and the Interministerial Committee members must step aside and be made to account for their stewardship so far. Then a more competent body should be reconstituted with men and women who are not easily compromised. Those who share the president's ideals or ideas will and with unbridled passion to serve Mother Ghana are those we need. Okay, so
Angels.
If this is coming from the Jubilee House, then obviously it tells you that
There's fire on the mountain.
okay, just a couple more of those messages. Musa Abattoir is sending this from Kumasi, and he says the government has totally lost the fight from day one. What happened to Charles Bissiou when he was caught by Anas Arameyaw Anas collecting money? Now we are told excavators that were impounded during the exercise have vanished. Efo Newton from Mankranso says it is now crystal clear that the president is only talking the walk with this Galamsey issue. The missing excavators is a colossal testament of massive chop and gross corruption that is gross in the government. Benjamin Osei Jamra in Edinburgh in the UK says that the fight against Galamsey is very difficult one. Everybody, including those of you in the studio, are involved. Oh. Yes. Oh. Nana Kwame sent in this one. Nana Kwame, okay, okay, your message is not rolling. So thank you very much. I think we can pause on the Galamsey matter at this point, even though I have tons and tons of messages coming in from you on the Galamsey issue. So the political parties, as you know, are divided over whether or not the Electoral Commission should roll out a new system. It's not just a register, a new system for election 2020. You are aware of the demonstrations that have happened, the explanations that have come from the EC, and right here on Newsfile, our very first edition, the EC was unequivocal. The decision is sealed. It's a done deal. So what is all the noise about? They managed to get the EC's interministerial, EC's eminent advisory committee to hold a meeting with the EC to listen to these other voices to see if something can happen. Unfortunately, 6 hours of meeting, or almost 7 hours, ended with no results. How did that happen? Let's listen to Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo after that meeting, Esiedun Ketia after that meeting, and then Yabuabinga Samoa after that meeting.
So independent candidates have no role. But we agreed to relax the rules from the beginning so that we could allow any stakeholder present to make their presentation. Unfortunately, after the independent presidential candidate made a presentation, the civil society group were denied the opportunity to make their own presentation. Be that as it may, we have come to very important conclusions. The Committee for Eminent Persons assured us that they have heard all the presentations. They believe that each side has made a very reasonable contributions, and so they are going to formulate their advice and then present it to the Electoral Commission with inputs from everything that has been said here. Apart from that, they gave the opportunity that their doors are still open to receive any memos, petitions, or any write-ups of any nature, so they can take all those into consideration when they are advising the Electoral Commission. It must be said.
Do we know when this advice will come? Do we know when the advice will come?
Well, we have no idea, but our protest will continue.
The Electoral Commission did their presentation, both technical and financial reasons presentation. At the end of the day, what has come to light is that none of the issues that were raised spoke against the data of the Electoral Commission. Yes. So as far as we are concerned, all the other things that the Electoral Commission want to do can be done without compiling a new data. Because we asked the Electoral Commission technical person whether the data is credible or not credible. And he could not tell us that the data is not credible, because the Electoral Commission has conducted elections with this data as late as December last year. And for that matter, we believe that all the other things that they want to do can be done without necessarily going back to touch the data through a new registration. The bombshell the Electoral Commissioner presentation dropped was that the voter register will be ready by the 8th of November 2020. 3 weeks to election. 3 weeks to election. And we are saying that if you have to compile a new register, go through all the processes, and the register will be ready by 8th of November, less than 1 month to the election, then of course it means that this register cannot be used for election 2020.
So I'm assuming that the eminent persons or otherwise intend to carry on a process, which is how they concluded. They've issued a communique saying that they will continue their debates and their discussions. As to whether they achieved what they wanted to achieve, I can't tell.
But for the political party, would you say that you achieved consensus as far as the creation of a new register is concerned?
What is consensus? Because at least from my count, 10 political parties say yes to a register, 6 say no, 2 were neutral. So is that consensus? The NDC has given the impression that a coalition of political parties, a coalition. So they are playing a numbers game here. A coalition of political parties don't want a new register. And they've gone around having demonstrations and pseudo-demonstrations with this coalition. When we came here, 18 political parties spoke. So if it is a numbers game, 10 of those political parties say they want a new register. 6 sided with the NDC, including the NDC itself. 2 say that they are going to go with the decision of the EC. Now, whatever the EC says they will do is what they will also follow. So, if assuming the EC...
Right, so when it's election time, then you get to know that there are 18 political parties in Ghana. and particularly when there are troubles at IPAC, that's where you see that there are more political parties than NDC, NPP, and
to be
PNC.
fair, there are no 18 political parties in Ghana. It's not true, not even in law.
Oh, they are
Most of them are going to be. No, the EC currently has a court order to make sure that the accounts and other things of those political parties are in place or expand them. That is its legal mandate, and it is duty bound to do so.
Yes, you were involved in that suit, but they haven't done it.
They haven't done it.
They are still there. Check their website.
But I'm saying those political are illegal entities parading as such, and we shouldn't be invoking them.
We know most of them. It's a one-man party.
Yeah,
and the parties find a way of the two parties find a way of getting them on their side.
you know.
So it depends on how deep your pocket is. You can get them to support you for IPAC. Yes. So why? We have an EC which has given us sufficient reasons why the current system should be jettisoned, and they are introducing something that's going to give us savings of over 173 million Ghana cedis. And you, the CSOs who are against it, you were not given the opportunity at this IPAC meeting, and you are not happy. Why?
Because all you said, you just sang from the EC's hymn book. And that hymn book is what they've been trying to push to people, and it's not working. One, that they've given sufficient reasons. There has never been any time in a room of people who understand this thing where the EC has been able to sufficiently explain. Never. It never happened. And I say here, the EC will never be able to explain why it must do what it is purporting to do to a room of IT experts. It can't happen.
You are simply refusing to listen.
No, we've listened.
Even at this almost 7-hour meeting, they didn't justify this.
You see, Samson, I am saying they've tried it consistently and they failed. That tells you that it is just not doable. It's like somebody coming to tell you that, Charlie, the sun rises from the west. It's not possible to explain. So that's number one. And the second thing you were saying is that what? They have
saving costs.
The saving costs. The numbers don't add up. Look, let me put it in very simple terms. If you say, I am going to register 17 million people, and it's going to be cheaper than me registering 2 million people, it does not make sense. And the only reason why the EC is saying so, and I'm trying to avoid the technical conclusion, is that, oh, somebody told us that if we did everything, they will charge us less. Please, excuse me. You can go and find out exactly how much it costs per person and all those things. Because mathematically, it cannot be that today, if you are registering 70 million people, it will be cheaper than if you are registering 2 million people. You tell that to the Marines, not to a room of intelligent people. So look, we've been there, gone through the numbers. If we want to, we will go through them again. But I'm making the point. The EC's consistent failure to convince people who are not even IT experts tells you that there's something wrong with that approach. And we are saying, look, seriously, there are other ways to do that and be sure. One other thing that I'm going to say here, which is important to me, because maybe in the scheme of things we will not be able to conclude everything, is this. Everywhere that new biometric systems have been introduced, they have had major problems. We've done that, we've listed them, we can tell you. So what they're even purporting to do, if we all go to sleep and they do it, the fact on the ground, the experiential evidence across the world is that if even they do it, we will have massive problems and would have spent money to buy trouble.
You have been saying that they should be upgrading, the system, because that's a cheaper way and easier to do, and you don't need to go over all the thing. But they have thrown the question back at you. Which of the components of the system are they going to upgrade? They are telling you some of these have become all useless in their own words, and that in the elections they have had to do, they had to cannibalize some of these, machines to be able to get something that's credible. So if you are asking them to do that, you are actually setting them up to fail, and then you attack them at the same time. Because as far as they are concerned, this system will collapse on them if they used it.
So again, the facts don't bear them up. We are not telling the EC to upgrade their systems. The EC itself constituted a proper committee to look at their systems and advise them. And they were advised that given what you are running, the best way, international best practice, is to continually improve the system. There are 7 main parts of the system. The best way I can explain it under these circumstances, look at your bank. Your bank, my bank has had my data for over 20 years. That data doesn't change because my name doesn't change. That data is sitting somewhere in a database. I use the ATM, okay? Now, I use my phone. I can go to the bank counter, all right? When I travel elsewhere, I'm able to use that system. Now, the EC has a very similar system. What the EC is telling you is that, oh, you use the ATM and the ATMs have problems. Because of that, we should change the ATMs, change the banking software, change the computers being used in the bank, change the data, change the data centers where the information is held. How does that make sense? When you have 7 parts of a system, very complex system, and even if one part is not working, how do you go and rip up the rest of the parts? By the way, the information we have, the data itself, is not corrupted. We just used it 2 months or so ago. So, first point, the EC itself...
You have hardware which is at end of use.
I can tell you again that it is not true. The fact that
some obsolete.
It's not true. And that's why I'm saying the EC can't explain itself. 2016, they spent $40 million buying equipment. As late as 2018, the EC bought new equipment. Look, this laptop, okay, is in its 3rd year. I use it for about 10 hours a day. It has fingerprint and all those things. It's still good. The EC does elections once every 4 years. Have you seen the equipment they use? The robustness of those pieces of equipment? It doesn't mean they don't get damaged. And when you say you cannibalize a laptop, they didn't do any such thing. Look, the EC cannot come and tell us that what is an objective fact, it's subjective to they alone. Where are all those laptops? Where are all those pieces of equipment? And we are saying you yourself have been doing continuous improvement across the ages. The EC in the last 10 years has spent about $250 million on buying equipment. Who does that?
They have said
who does that?
Outdated and unsupported software have several vulnerabilities that can be capitalized on by mischief makers, leading to potential data loss. That is, if you're asking them to try and migrate the data, you know, by way of, as if they are not throwing away what they already have, they will lose data. If they do, you be the same person come to blame them.
Again, the facts. Which software are they talking about? Is it the software as in the database holding the thing? Or they're talking about the ABIS? Are they talking about the core software that checks and authenticates the systems? Is that what they're talking about? Or the softwares on the laptops? Or the softwares running the hardware system? Or the softwares running their communication systems? Which software are they talking about? Whichever software they're talking about, there is somebody who made that software. There will even be options to that software. They can absolutely go back. The STL group that they bought it from do not write software. They buy it from other people. If your contract with STL is over, you can go get that other thing.
Because
the
it's a proprietary software, they have been locked in.
Again,
you know that.
We used the system just about 2 months ago. Who locked who in? And why would anybody lock in our data? If even that were true, all they will want is for you to pay them so you use it because it's our data. I'm not talking about the fact that the explanation of how we got to that itself is a mystery. But as an institution, spending over $200 million on IT equipment cannot be justified, especially when you come and tell us that we should yank all of that and throw it away, when it is not possible to justify to a room of intelligent people that you need to do that. On the other hand, if you could just go and do what your own committee has told you to do, we'll be spending in the region of $20 million. We will upgrade this system and make it sufficient to use for the next election. Number 3, if even the EC did what they are purporting to do, and I can give you, they can go and check. If they try to do what, in Nigeria, their first implementation, 2011, it was a mess. In Kenya, it was so bad, they abandoned the whole system and went on a different way. In Tanzania, they deployed in 2015, it was a mess. In Afghanistan, it was a total shutdown. They had to fly people in to try and resolve the situation. What I'm saying is that even in the best case, when you do, and in Ghana, we had the same situation.
Yeah, the first time.
You read the first time we had the same situation, yes. And later we had to recalibrate and go back. If they try it, they will be sending us into trouble. So look, whichever way you look at this thing, it doesn't make sense. And please, the EC does not have a monopoly on
so
the
why are
expertise
you,
on
the
these things.
CSOs, not happy that at this particular important meeting, you were not given the opportunity to speak. And I hear Johnson Siedinkete and the others also saying, why did they have to give a previous independent candidate, that is Joy, the opportunity to speak, rather than, that's Jacob Osei-Yeboah,
again,
rather than the CSOs.
Again, with all due respect to the EC, they seem to be playing these games. Yeah. When we had our first meeting with them, we intentionally wrote to them and said, we don't want you to come and just talk down to us. We want to have a discussion. We go into the meeting, they are an hour late. They come in and they set up a series of presentations, totally pointless, when they knew we were scheduled for some other thing. Then when we ask, can we have a discussion, say, you can only ask one question. What kind of thing is that? Then you go for this meeting, they declared here that their minds were made up, they were going to go ahead and do whatever they wanted to do. Look, civil society organizations are citizens. We occupy the office of the citizen. It is for us that they do what they do. They answer to us. We have no executive power, but the office of the citizen is more important than the office of the president.
18 or 20 watts of you, civil society.
18 of us signed, but we're more than 20.
Yeah, you may be that number, but the key stakeholders, so to speak, are the political parties. So they should be dealing with the political parties.
Even if you are dealing with the key stakeholders, we're not talking about 20 political parties here. There are 2 main political parties in this country and others. And if you deal with the 2 main political parties, you will find sensible enough reason on both sides. So you have to subject it. This is a technical matter to expertise, proper, and take advice. Okay, if we had time, we'll go through why. But the EC should not be making this decision. Listen, the EC is an elections commission.
Independent elections commission.
It is independent elections commission, but it is subject to law.
The Constitution says it's not subject to the direction and control of anybody, apart from the Constitution.
It is subject to the Constitution, and in 296, it says that you shall make your decisions candidly, shall be open, and all those other. The EC cannot tomorrow come and tell us that at the next election we should all line up behind our candidates. Yeah. They can't. They can't operate outside the law. Now, the EC does not have inherent IT expertise, and the EC clearly does not have a right to give us a bill of $150 million for something that they cannot justify.
So all of this, are we not wasting time, really? The last time we spent the whole show discussing the issue, and before we ended, we had like a minute or 2 to end the show, and I asked the EC's commissioner, one of them who was here, and he said, it's done deal. One of the directors, he said it's done. So what is all this for?
The EC can choose.
It's done. They are going ahead. So what is it?
There are so many options. Between a right to information, between a legal challenge and other things, it can be stopped.
They are rolling out in April. They are going ahead.
My point is, look, I work in a civil society organization. If I wanted to make executive power, I will seek PEMQuest's job or some other executive job. Our job is to shine the light, is to show those who have to exercise their authority on our behalf, that if you are doing this and it's wrong, we are telling you it's wrong. They can choose to go ahead. Everybody and anybody who understands this thing knows that we are running to waste money, and the EC is pretending it has the legal and moral right to do so. It doesn't.
Okay. Felix, it's like seeking to impeach Trump in a Congress that, in a Senate that you don't have majority. It's a no-no from the start.
Something. There's no logical or technological, as Mr. Ventil and his colleagues have rightly demonstrated over this period, reason why the EC wants to compile a new register. And I will be blunt with you. Look, I think 2 things account for their decision. First, there's a political motive. And then somebody has their eyes on procurement. Those are the 2 reasons why the EC is going ahead to do this. Because it makes no sense, with the greatest respect to them, what they are doing. You don't waste 440 million Ghana cedis on a process that is not required. The fundamental point, the fundamental question the EC must answer is that today, the register that sits in their archives, in their systems, is it fit for purpose or not? If elections were held today with that register, would the outcome be deemed credible? I would answer for them, it is yes. Because only 2 months or so ago, I went to Brafoyao in the Abu Asebu Kwamankese district and voted in the district assembly elections. I did so. Indeed, I took the pains to go around a number of centers to find out whether they had met with any challenge to the equipment. And everywhere I went, they answered in the negative. They said the systems were working fine. There were no issues with the network. The equipment had not broken down. The rate of failure was very, very minimal, as the EC itself disclosed a while ago, that only 0.6%. And there are places like India, which are supposed to have more advanced systems than ours. Now record about 4% rate of failure.
Internationally, 1.8
Absolutely.
is acceptable.
So there's no earthly reason for a new register. Why? In 2016, this register produced the current president. And in as much as we disagree fundamentally with the governance of President Akufo-Addo, we respect the fact that he was legitimately elected. So one cannot put a finger on any reason why the EC is doing it other than political. And I say political because, look, the attack on this register started before the 2016 elections. The New Patriotic Party is on record to have launched an unjustifiable, baseless attack on the register. The current vice president held a press conference and claimed that he had over 700,000 names of people who were not supposed to be on the register because they were foreigners. When they were doing so, they were targeting a certain part of this country with a view to achieving voter suppression. He claimed that he had 10% of the evidence and that he will furnish the country later with the additional 90%. In fact, you recall that there was a committee under the chairmanship of the late VCA, R.C. Crab, that requested for that additional 90% information, which never came. The register was the subject of a litigation, which we believe was sponsored by the New Patriotic Party. They used Abu Ramadan. All the lawyers in that case were MPP lawyers. Nobody can run away from the fact that it was an MPP instigated case.
What was the problem with that?
There's no problem. But I'm making the point that they tested their case in court also. The outcome was that the register was credible. There was an order for the deletion of some names. Even then, there was no conclusive evidence that the people should not be there. It was speculative in that they said they used NHIS cards, so maybe they could be foreigners.
Which was not allowed by the law.
In any event, those people were allowed opportunity to re-register using the right documentation.
Exactly.
So a legal process was initiated to test the validity, the legitimacy of that register, and it passed. Elections were held. The MPP has never stopped wasting our years with the fact that they won by 1 million votes. We have a president who has gone on to set up a government that is operating legitimately. In December, when the district assembly elections were held, 6,000 assemblymen who were sworn in about a week or so ago were elected. 35,000 unit committee members, all deemed validly and legally elected, came out of that process. On what basis, therefore, does the entity that supervised all of this come out to tell us that there's a need to replace this register?
In fact, we would have done a referendum using the
Absolutely,
same.
but for the contestation.
You have given someone a job.
Yes.
To do a credible job. This is a very important job that can plunge this country, when there's a mistake, into chaos. He has assessed the tools he has, and he says this is the path that can guarantee a credible result. You are fighting that person.
No.
How does that work?
You see,
if they went ahead with what you are insisting and there was trouble, will you tend to blame them again?
On the evidence of all that I've told you, there will be no trouble. The only trouble that is impending is being courted by the EC at the instigation of what I believe to be political masters. That's why I spoke about a political motive. Look, the president of this country, Nana Akufo-Addo, in the heat of the debate about the Ghana card, launched yet another attack on the very register that elected him. In other words, he accepts the mandate that he derived from the register, but is unwilling to accept the validity of the register. Such a bizarre situation. Again, you need to consider the circumstances under which the current leadership of the EC came to. No, I beg your pardon.
It's the EC that is telling us the challenges they have.
So I'm telling you that there is a political motive. In the absence of any technologically superior argument, in the absence of any logical argument that is acceptable to reasonable-minded people, I say they are doing this for political reasons.
That you are not buying the argument doesn't mean they are not logical.
But why? The arguments have been held in the public. We have all heard them. Anytime an EC official has attempted a response, it has ended disastrously. Everybody who reasons carefully, who is open-minded, will tell you that the arguments do not make sense. Once the president indicated that he thought that holders of the voters' ID card could have a number of foreigners amongst them, the EC perceived that as an order to compile a new register. That is why we are where we are. So the sudden acceptance of that deeply flawed, unsubstantiated position by the NPP on the register is what has left us where we are. And we believe strongly that all this is aimed at voter suppression. What they want is to have a register that at all costs has been compiled under an NPP government, so they can use state machinery to frustrate the process to the detriment of opposing political parties. That is what is at the heart of this and nothing more. It is the reason why they are struggling to marshal any cogent arguments on the matter. Because, something, you see, elections are not just rigged at the polling station on election day. The processes leading up to it are as important as the final event and its outcome. In the Ghana card registration, if you go to Abu Asebu Kwamankese now, there are places where you have about 300 residents who queue to vote, and in a day, only 2 or 10 of them are registered. Yet there are other places that you know are dominated by NPP folk, and they get 300 people registered. So the process can be used to frustrate voters and make it difficult for them to register. In addition to this, I'm sure you've heard the EC itself say that they will not even roll out in all polling stations. They will set up about 8,000 or so. That means that about 3 different polling stations would have to be collapsed into one. Further frustration for the voter. Added onto this is the fact that they will be coming out of another registration process, the NIA registration. So even voter fatigue, fatigue with registration and frustration can get people to stay away from the process. And I believe all those calculations are fitting into this agenda to compile an entirely needless register. Something. Again, look at the mischief that the EC is playing. You know that at yesterday's meeting, I have spoken to our representatives. This morning, the Inter-Party Resistance Against the Compilation of a New Register has issued a statement. I don't know whether you've seen it.
Yeah, I have it.
In which they indicate that at the end of the meeting, a communique was agreed on. It was read to everybody's hearing. And the understanding was that it would be issued minutes after the meeting was over. That communique has not come out. Instead, we've had a statement from the EC's Public Affairs Directorate, which completely misrepresents the situation and says that more parties, 18 parties or so, agreed with the process. And Mr. Benson rightly pointed out, look, apart from the MPP, NDC, CPP, PNC, maybe APC and a few others, all the rest are shell organizations that are into political entrepreneurship. The likes of Kofi Apalo, I'm sure you know, he is the beneficiary of a $2 million contract from this government. You don't expect him to kick against something the government is in favor of. So let nobody insult the intelligence of Ghanaians by going to parade people who lack credibility to come and lend that credibility that they don't have to a process like this. But the substantive point I was making, the substantive point I'm making something is that what transpired at the meeting is not what has been put up by the EC. The meeting ended inconclusively. Indeed, we are told that but for the intervention of one of the respected clergymen at the meeting, blows would have been exchanged between some of the participants in the meeting. Again, even before this meeting was convened, the EC had gone ahead to set dates for the registration. Look, I have enormous respect for the membership of the Eminent Advisory Council. I think that they represent some of the best people we have in this country.
The statement by the committee is saying, in effect, that because of what you have spoken about, that
you mean
in the view of this Inter-Party Resistance Committee, it is tantamount to gross disdain and disregard for the EC's own Eminent Advisory Committee and all stakeholders involved in the deliberations. This disdain follows the announcement of the date for the commencement of the registration exercise ahead of the dialogue of the matter requested for by the Eminent Advisory Committee. This we consider not only an act of bad faith to all the stakeholders, but also an act of utter disrespect to the EC's own establishment.
Yes, I was going to make the point that, look, I have respect for the membership of the committee. Okay. However, I have difficulty with their functional necessity. I don't think that the best role they can play is to tie their apron strings to that of the EC. They are best, they are going to represent our interests the best if they operated outside of the confines of the EC, so that when there are disputes, we can run to them to mediate. At this stage, They are a body under the control of the EC. So you realize that even their own statements are issued on the letterhead of the EC, which is highly irregular.
They are not under the control.
No, what I mean is that they are an advisory.
These eminent men and women cannot be controlled by the EC.
Don't take me out. I said that I respect their individual accomplishments. But in the current form, they are a body under the control of the EC. I'm not saying that individually.
They are not under the control.
No, but they are the advisory.
I think you should not be saying
so.
No, they are supposed to give advice.
Yes,
they are supposed to give advice.
But
and you know that the body is not bound by advice.
Yes, but they are an advisory council of the EC.
Exactly.
That's the point I'm making. I'm saying that they are better off
for their work. Doesn't mean that they are controlled.
They are better off operating independent. In fact, political parties should be able to run to them on their own steam to come and mediate in conflict between them and the EC. In the current state in which they are composed, they appear to be a body aligned to the EC. It doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with what the EC is doing. You must get the delineations correctly. I am saying that the EC itself has not shown them respect.
I still think your characterization is not correct.
No. I'm saying, let me repeat it for emphasis, that these are accomplished men. Nobody can take away what they have done in this country and the respect they command in society. If the intention is to ensure that we have a body that can mediate in times of disputes between the EC and parties going into an election, that body does not have to come under the umbrella of the EC. Currently, they come under the umbrella of the EC. The very fact that their statements are on the letterhead of the EC is an indication that they are a creation of the EC and they come under the umbrella. I think that situation is irregular and does not bode well for conflict resolution. That is why the EC is able to show them such contempt and disdain by setting dates even before they allow them to be able to take part in the process that leads to the resolution. Again, why is the EC being so dishonest in this endeavor? Why is the EC unable? Why is the EC unable to tell the truth?
My question really to you was: so
to
what end?
Because
they have set out dates. They are doing their procurement.
There are several ways in which the EC can be stopped. Look, there are countries, and I'm not. Then please don't take me out of context. We woke up one day in Burkina Faso, and the government was gone because citizens simply marched to some government institutions. Okay, in Hong Kong, they brought the entire country to a standstill for months because they disagree with particular provisions in laws that the leadership of the country has made. So they're thinking that the mere fact that the EC is independent enables them to do as they please without recourse to due process and common sense and logic is flawed. If citizens choose, they can make the work of the EC difficult. The inter-party resistance has indicated that they will be embarking on further demonstrations. That's not the only option available to them.
Yeah, so the inter-party resistance says that in view of what they have spoken about as the EC has done, they were supposed to have issued a statement which was drafted together, agreed together. They didn't do that. They wrote their own thing.
To mislead the public.
And put up votes against another. They're saying that they announced the escalation of their public manifestations and further declared that the Yempini march to the EC on Tuesday, the 4th of February 2020 will happen. We shall converge at Kawokudi Park, Accra, and march through Kanda to the EC and to the Liberation Circle, Children's Park. Let's all rally together to defend and protect our democracy and the integrity of our electoral process. Long live the resistance, long live Ghana, a luta continua.
And something before
signed by Comrade Bernard Mona on behalf of the inter-party resistance against the new register. So let me come to Dr. Ali to say
just a minute before
who joined us in this second segment.
You see, look, it is important that the citizens of Ghana don't leave this to just political parties and CSOs. Because ultimately, it is their resources, the 440 million. Is their money that can be used to resolve some of the most pressing problems that we have as a country.
You have made that
exactly.
Point. Yeah, that
and the EC should also not think that independence as enshrined in the Constitution clothes them with the power to do as they please. It is wrong. And they must care about their image and integrity. They are not there to ensure the election of a particular person.
Senior lecturer, Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. Thank you very much for joining the segments. And he's been listening and making notes copiously on his diary. But you see, it's interesting. When Charlotte Osei was in office, she sought to set up a committee that looks almost like this kind of committee that's been set up. The NDC was happy about it then. The NPP was angry. They didn't like it. Today, Jean Mensa has managed to set up a similar committee. He's talking about control and things that he's not excited about. But let's get to the issue. Having listened to all of that has gone on so far, do you really think that the political parties which are against it should continue because it may be an exercise in futility because the EC clearly says we're going ahead? We are independent.
I thank you so much, Samson, for the opportunity. Yeah. I still think whatever means legal to them to be able to get what they want done from the EC, they should do it. One, I think the EC is created by the Constitution, and I think it should act in the interest of the state. So when we are looking at the interest of the state, it's about ensuring a credible voter register, credible process, and then an outcome that has integrity.
Right.
And I believe maybe most of the issues that they have been, the defense they have been putting up in support of the new voter register is tied to this whole concept of what? Doing their work in a very decent way that will lead to the betterment of the country. But I think where this action creates unnecessary tension, or not unnecessary, or create tension in the country, in the run-up to an election, the EC has to listen, to be honest with you. They have the mandate to conduct election, but there are several other stakeholders. I don't think political parties they are the key, but there are other stakeholders as well. CSOs are there, but even we, those who vote, we the people, even the constitution start with what? We the people, we are very important, right? So what I do think is that, and what is the name? Strengthening process that can enhance dialogue is one of the best way to go. And I remember when the EC announced the meeting that they had yesterday, sorry, the EAC announced the meeting that they had yesterday, the inter-party coalition against the new voters suspended the agitation with the hope that something good will come up from this process. But if they made a compromise, I think the other side should also be willing to make what? A little bit of a compromise so that we can see how best we can move this country forward. I think of all the issues that we've raised, I think timing is very crucial.
You know, it's a two position, like Professor H. Rempe will always say, the way we think in binary terms.
Yeah.
There's a group that says, we don't need a new one. What we need is upgrade the system and proceed. There's no a third position. So what's the compromise going to be about? So these guys go there and they say, jettison what you are trying to do. The EC2 tells them, jettison what you are trying to do.
So something, this I'm looking at it. Fine, even if we still need to do a new voter register, I think we should consider the timing. The EC can still use this register that they have used in all these elections. And after our December election, they will take their time, get stakeholder buy-in, and compile a new voter register that is robust and can be used.
Why do we complain about timing this time round, when this is not the first time we are going to do a new system in the election year?
I assume in the times that we had it didn't generate this whole lot of tension.
It did.
That we are having.
There's no new thing we have done that the opposition really supported.
So, but Samson, I still think there is an opportunity if we are willing to compromise our positions and seek a neutral position and move forward. Other than that, I think we'll be heading for disaster. I wouldn't be happy what's going to happen if we all take these interim positions. I think that's the beauty of democracy. That we can at least make compromises and then agree on something that will be beneficial to the country. I think political parties have their interests. Fine, they want power. The EC has an interest, maybe making the electoral processes better. There may be other interests that they may not state, and that we don't know. But at the end of the day, political parties want power because they want to better the lives of people in this country. EC want to conduct an election that will make what? This country better. So they should find a neutral ground. And I think more opportunity to dialogue can actually soften the stance and give people the opportunity to be able to behave.
Let's hear from
factual information. You ask for a third role. There's some fact that we need to put out.
In Asantichi, they say, oh, yeah, Astroya. Do you understand what that means?
This one fears this one. But let me put this out. Because
what is the fear about? What is it?
No. I think this is
what's
factual.
What's the mistrust about?
Hold on, I beg you. The EC put out numbers. We need to deal with the numbers. Exactly. The EC says that if they replace the whole system, it's going to cost us 74 million. And if we do the upgrade, it is going to cost us 56 million. there is a problem there. They want to add re-registration. Re-registration alone is 70 million.
Exactly.
So if you add the 70 million to the 74 million equipment, we are in 126 million. It's very important. Number two, if we upgrade, we would not do re-registration. And that is 56 million. Now, even if we do re-registration, the re-registration according to the EC will be 20 million. In other words, it is factually inaccurate that the EC says a replacement is cheaper. A replacement plus contingency will cost us 150 million. If we do not replace, but we upgrade to the latest and we do additional registration to top up whatever it is going to cost us less than 80 million. So that's the third rule. Even if we allow the EC to do what it's doing, its numbers don't add up.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Kwenka.
You know, I listened carefully again to my brothers, and particularly my brother I have so much respect for, Mr. Bentil. See, Mr. Bentil, you talked about the fact that EC had said that registering 2 million people was going to cost more than registering 17 million. That's not correct. And you said it here, and that's not correct. They were talking about a totality of the upgrading of the system and the re-registration, but not just the registration of the 2 million people alone. So let's put that in perspective.
That's
and
right.
I heard him categorically. Now, the other thing is this. What is strange is the vociferous manner with which some people are doing as though a new register will plunge this country into chaos. Since 92, how many times have we done new registers in this country? And after those new registers, the country was plunged into chaos. Why is the sudden pessimism? Why? The Electoral Commission, it is not in dispute by Article 46. It's not in dispute that they're supposed to do their work without direction or control of anybody. And we want to use demonstrations to let them do what we want. That's the path we want to tread.
When you were in opposition,
we are living in a country of laws, not a country of might and men.
We're talking and insisting on the independence of the Electoral Commission. Do you remember the things you said about its independence? Even Kufuor made a pronouncement about it. Why is it that when you're in government, you like to talk about the independence of the commission, but when you are not, then
Samson,
there's a problem?
I just want to make this point in its strongest terms. I've not developed my point.
All right.
But the most important thing is that we are living in a country of laws. If you think that what the Electoral Commission is doing is unconscionable and unlawful, you know where to go for a pronouncement. Not the streets, not inciting people. And even people have run into the realms of conjecture and speculation that when the new register is going to be done, there will be voter suppression in certain parts of the country. Anticipatory. And they have had their own convictions and all that, personal idiosyncrasies and thinkings, reading into the minds of the EC when there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. It's very interesting. You see, people are psyching up others, inciting them and preparing their minds not to accept a new register. We don't do that. We should look at it in a holistic manner based on the law, practice, and procedure, whether or not the action of the EC is contrary to any laid down rule or regulation known by all of us. If it is not and they are acting within their mandate, we support them. But you asked a very important question. And I'd like to emphasize that. You asked my brother Felix whether if there is chaos today as a result of an election, the blame will not be put on the EC. It will be squarely put on the EC.
But what chaos?
No, hold on. They are those who are manning the system. And they are telling you that, yes, you may have used it once or twice or thrice, but going forward, it is not going to serve the purpose any longer.
They actually say the periods that you say they use them for the district assembly elections and all, it nearly collapsed. You have no idea how they managed it.
It's not true, Samson.
That's what they are telling you.
I'm saying that, Samson. I'm telling them that.
Yeah, but it never happened.
You cannot just say with your mouth that it's not
the evidence of it.
The evidence is 0.6.
They have accepted. If you have a contrary position, you must.
They don't just accept.
They
must
show us the evidence.
0.6. Can I make my point? Because when they each spoke, I never even interjected once. You see, very, very strongly, I want to state this. Is it the Electoral Commission that is manning the process and these machines or the public?
It's the Electoral Commission.
So if the people who are managing it are saying that these are the deficiencies, and you are not managing, you are not privy to what they are doing there, and you are telling them that
please,
what you are doing
please allow
is
him
wrong,
to speak. Yeah.
then it means that you are now virtually taking over the work of the Electoral Commission. What I'm saying is that, Samson, you see, Mr. Benton, you may as well stay out of this debate.
Why should he?
And let me tell you why. You know what?
Use the EC's own information.
Just a minute. You see, Felix made some points, and they were political.
But of course.
And I'm not going to allow them to pass. He stated categorically that there will be voter suppression in certain parts of Ghana, and that this is what the whole process is politically motivated and meant to achieve such an end.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm not going to mention names, but let me tell you something very strange. When they registered DEC candidates last year, there's a particular constituency in this country that the number of registered voters, my constituency times 5, will give you the number of registered voters in that constituency. If you multiply the number of registered voters in my constituency by 5, you will get the number of registered voters in that other constituency. You know what? When they were registering DEC, the number of candidates in my constituency were more than the number of candidates in that other constituency.
How is that evidence of?
I'm trying to establish a point.
Oh, yeah, but go ahead.
You know,
Finish.
Mr. Benton, this is the reason
I'll tell you
why some
something.
people think there should be no new register.
Why?
Because if these numbers, as I have told you, which are not in debate at all, are anything to go by, it means that the number of young persons in my constituency are more than the number of young persons in the constituency where the population is 5 times my constituency.
Basic
Which is very, very strange.
The number of basic schools.
Very strange.
You are comparing apples to
No, hold on, Felix. I have not told you which constituency I'm talking about. I'm making a point. I'm making a point. You see, the point is that, Samson, the point I am making is that the Electoral Commission the Electoral Commission is mandated by law to compile.
Right.
They are handling it. They are saying that, look, let's say that we use the old register. Excuse me to say. We agree and accept the old register. Go ahead. And then in the elections, there are problems. And then it results in chaos and etc. Who do we blame?
Okay.
Do we blame those who said we should maintain the old register?
My very final question to you, Penka,
the EC says.
My very final question to you is this: that is there wisdom in the suggestion to the EC that already the nation is sinking a lot of money into a national identification system? We have passed a law that says only the National Identification Authority has the power to take our biometric data. They are in this process. They may not finish it at the time that you want it for elections, even though they say if EC collaborates with them properly, they'll be able to deliver it for them. Does it make sense, economic sense at least, that the EC shelves what it wants to do, then spends just a bit more, a little, to do the upgrade, manage that, and then going forward, it will now use the NIA data to do what it wants to do? Does it make sense? So that we rather spend money working with the NIA to get the database and an ID that is multi-purpose, serving all our purposes that we need.
You see, again, the economic argument that I have heard makes it even more strange, because you know the reason? When we decided to embark on this path of democracy, we knew that there was a cost to it. And we knew that we must find the money to do what we are supposed to do to sustain the democracy.
All right.
So to be making that argument today amounts to saying that we should revert to a system that will not allow us to spend money in carrying out our democratic processes.
So that
I don't agree with
EC
that.
is going to do
Let
what
me indicate this. People have stated in the past, and I have heard people say, for example, we don't have water in certain villages, we don't have water, and therefore we are going to use this money to do A, B, C, D. They have not come to the conclusion that the other alternative is going to be free. They have not come to that conclusion.
All right.
Okay.
You haven't come to that conclusion.
So you said,
I am saying that. I am saying that. Please and please and please. As a nation, EC is acting in compliance with the necessary constitutional dictates and principles. Any person or group of persons who think that their actions are unlawful and unconstitutional can go for a pronouncement by a court. Until that is done, what they are doing is within their ambit, within their legal
Thank you very much.
right.
And
so we should allow
I'll give
them
you
to carry
exactly
out
1 minute because we need to break here and come to deal with the MPP primaries issue. Yes, Kofi, 1 minute.
On the point that you made, when data is collected with a specific purpose, it almost always becomes tainted because people give you the information you want. That's why footballers change their age. That's why when people are registering for work, they change their age so that they'll get, Now, the way to get sterile data is to collect it with no purpose specifically in mind. If EC collects data, it's because of the doctrine of necessity, because we didn't have an NIA. That data, because the political parties, everybody knows is going to go for election, will be tainted. Have you seen anybody tainting NIA data per se? So there are many reasons, and I don't have the time, but the point is this. According to EC's own information, their failure rate was 0.6. That was perfectly acceptable. According to EC's own information, the fact that a re-registration will cost more than an upgrade is not true, mathematically not true. So I'm saying, even if we allow them to do everything they are saying, their numbers, and I think it's very important, don't add up.
So we take a break on this note, and I'll read Professor Ransford Jampo's view. And he says the eminent advisory committee of the EC must go beyond a single IPAC meeting to build consensus around the issue. The EC must strive to accommodate the voices of dissent, and those who hold contrary views must express same in a manner that does not heighten the political tension too much. I'm very happy that today the views of a political party is in sync with those of some CSOs. Never should any political party, whether in power or in opposition, nurse the idea, whether overtly or covertly, of decimating CSOs. They may not be for you today, but may reason with you tomorrow. Ransford Jampo, thank you very much. And this show is brought to you by the kind of sponsorship of MTN, everywhere you go. Star Assurance, your solid partner. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. Amen Scientific, God is the healer. Duraplast, where Duraplast goes, water flows. We'll be right back.